Welcome to the KIPS Personal Trainer Application Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of the company and also the owner of Time to Train Fitness. Today we have an exciting episode. We have an international listener that is a fan of the podcast, and her and I communicated through Instagram, and I thought, you know what? Let's get her on. She's got a unique perspective and a different one, being that she lives up in Canada, our neighbors from above. So it's great to hear the differences in how her business has slightly changed, but also how the industry in her area. So we're going to jump into those topics. She's also a mom and how she deals with working at home, the kids doing online school, all those things. We're going to jump into this episode. I think it's a great topic. So Tammy, thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So let's kind of jump off of the topic that we were just talking about before I press record there. I think it was such a very fascinating for me just listening about how in your area of Canada, I believe Ontario, near the Niagara area, how has the industry kind of shifted? But also, can you run into, you explained it with the shutdown and the different colors and the zones, all that kind of good stuff?
Mm-hmm. So in Ontario at this point in the pandemic, so we're in December now, Ontario has taken a color-coded phased approach. I don't want to say it incorrectly, but that's basically the gist, a color-coded phased approach to how our protections and limitations go in different industries to keep people safe. So right now, as we speak, we are in what we call the orange zone, which means, again, certain numbers are allowed in gyms, face coverings have to be worn, certain limitations in fitness classes in terms of how many people can fit in a room, how far apart we have to be, all that kind of stuff. And so these are things that we've had to just pay very close attention to. And it looks like the Niagara region right now, our numbers aren't actually getting any better, as with most of the world right now in our second wave. So it's quite possible that we will head from an orange phase into a red phase very soon. So all of us are just constantly keeping our ears open and making sure that we're all aware of, what's to come and how it can impact us.
Yeah, definitely. And prior to recording, you were sharing even more about your business and how you do in-home training. Can you kind of share how that has kind of just slightly shifted and kind of your steps that you took throughout this pandemic and your business?
Yeah, in good news, because I'm an in-home personal trainer, I go to people's homes and we work with what they have, whether that be body weight, small equipment. Sometimes they've got full-on gyms set up in their homes. So, working from home, working out from home, that wasn't a huge shift for them. It's not like they had to say, oh no, what am I going to do? I don't have the gym anymore. So that sort of worked in my favor because, some people decided that, let's just do this on FaceTime. We can train on FaceTime. Great. That just meant that I had to make sure that I had my waivers and everything all in line and my contracts and stuff, outlining, the additional risks and things like that come along with, not working with me there with them in person. So that was a fun learning experience. But some people chose to do that, to do that virtual method. Some people just said, can we work out something where you just write my programs? We've been working together long enough. I feel confident enough to do the movements. If you could just write out some things for me to do. So we sort of kept in check that way. And there were some clients who just said, you know what, it's the summertime. I'm active anyway. I'm going to keep going throughout the summer and let's pick up as soon as we're able to be in person again. And that was the route we took there. And then when we were able to meet in person again, a lot of my clients had back porches or open garages, and we'd work out in there just to sort of ease into feeling safe being, in a closed space together again.
Yeah.
So that's how that worked. Group fitness was a little bit more of a challenge because obviously I was I rent from multiple studios. I rent space from them to teach my bar classes and yoga. So that got a little bit trickier, just keeping in line with making sure that I knew everybody's different rules, everyone's different open dates. And now that everything is back open again, there's challenges with my scheduling, because where I used to teach like 5 classes a week, now the studios actually need that space because they had to add more classes to their schedules, meaning that kind of pushed me out a little bit. So, and there's limitations on how many people can be in the room. So my classes are smaller now, and so, but that's something that will get better over time. And I was able to do a little bit of pivoting as well in terms of doing some live Facebook Live classes, and some pre-recorded libraries that I was able to give my clients access to and my participants.
Yeah.
And I mean, because honestly, I know that I hear, on a lot of the podcasts and a lot of different industry people that I've spoken to have told me about these giant pivots they've done. And I think that is amazing. A lot of people have managed to pivot in a way that they've grown their business through this whole thing. They've tapped into a whole new source of income. And I think that's wonderful. For me personally, my business is very focused. I try to make us all a community. And with that community focus, I really just wanted to keep my community together. That was my focus. I didn't focus too much on growing at this time, and I'm still not focused on growing quite right now. This really, for me, feels like a time just to keep things going as I have them. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's a very good
taking care of the community I have.
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen several posts on Facebook groups about how they weren't able to pivot or change, and even the competition online, all those items, because I'll admit I do own a online streaming business, and it's very competitive out there, and it's tough to deal with the big businesses out there. And so with you saying that you didn't shift, I think that's good to hear for the listeners. I can guarantee that there are people out there that are in the same boat. And I think the point that you made there about community, I think that is the big sticking point in the virtual world. So can you share a little bit about what you mean with the community and how you've tried to work with that aspect?
Yeah. So the area that I work in, so I live in Niagara, but I also work a little bit out in the Halton area, which is just a couple towns over. So I have like a broad range of spaces that I work in. And so I work with mainly women. And I feel like, I know when I first started my fitness journey personally, I needed other women to have my back. I needed other women in my life who knew my challenges and who knew my, sometimes my setbacks, sometimes the real mountains that I had to sort of climb over. And having those other women with me who were experiencing similar things, or who were later in life and who had experienced those things already, that, like, it just really lit a fire under me to make sure that, when my business opened, I wanted to make sure that community was like one of the biggest parts of it. So I've got a Facebook group called Tammy Snow-Johnston's Fit Tribe, and that's just all the people I work with, whether they be in my group fitness classes or my personal training clients, or just people who have expressed an interest in, being a part of the community. They're welcome to join that group too. And we just we do things in the group, like post funny memes that might speak to us about our journeys, or we discuss, in class last night we did this song, what was it? And we little inside jokes, things like that. Sometimes I'll put just little tips on there, fitness nutrition tips, or things that I would maybe put on my Instagram post publicly as well, or on my Facebook post publicly. So so keeping that going was a bit of a challenge during the pandemic. Actually, it was interesting. The very beginning, when the shutdown first started, like the first few days of the shutdown, I personally had a medical emergency and ended up in the hospital for a very surprise emergency surgery. all done now. Everything's good. Everything's
Good.
fine. But but it got me off to a slow start, and it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because like when this all started, I had to focus on just getting better myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really no way around that. There was no saying, no, but I got to do this. It was like, no, I can't. I need to, I need to focus on just getting better before I can do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me time to think. It gave me time to clarify my head, to not be in a panic mode like a lot of people unfortunately experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And so my beginning of this whole thing started with just a Facebook Live talk to all my community saying, so this is my situation. How are we all doing? And people could type in and, basically I could just put it out there in words instead of saying, I'm going to put fitness videos out. I'm going to do this and that and the other thing. It was just kind of, this is where I'm at. I want to help you. Tell me what you need. Is there anything I can do? And what an amazing response I got from people sending me personal messages every day saying, you know what, just the fact that you even asked is a big deal. I even got like actual phone calls, like on a telephone, like not text, but actual phone calls from some people saying, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And I was just like, it was just so moving to me. And it just made me so happy that I have this group of people. So, it just came very naturally to just put it out there to them once in a while. What could we use? Should I put up a video as soon as I'm feeling better? Or what if I just, post some videos that I did years ago and just sort of bring them back? And what if I, come on one day and just do a recording of things that you can use around your house? Like these are things that I could do while I was still laid up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that started.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to like when I was feeling better, I was able to, say, okay, I'm going to do some live classes. I'm going to do some pre-recorded library for you all to just check in with if you want to work out on your own time. And that became, a paid service, but, it was a way for me to make some income and a way for them to still, you know, uh, get what they needed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I talked a lot there. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's kind of how.
I think you hit a lot of good points there that the listeners, and I've even said this in, I think, other podcasts or even in lectures about how I admit that I was late to the community item with my new business, and the community option and being able to create that in a virtual space. That's the tough part.
It
That
was, yeah.
how can you get people to, I'll say, interact, but also feel a sense of community online. And I think that the realness, and I share that with people that ask me for advice or people that I consult with, creating that realness is genuine, but people respond to that. You can tell something that's real, somebody that put themselves out there and that they really, truly want to hear from their audience. And so whenever somebody's like, oh, I feel like it should be a little more professional, it should be a little different. No, like just go share
Yeah.
and be you. And
And I
people,
feel like that can
yeah.
be different for everyone too, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Yeah, like I've certainly met people who can be a little bit more reserved, and that's fine if that works for you. If you want to, like, if business is business and life is life, then that's fine.
mm-hmm,
I tend to sort of meet in a little happy medium there. Like I don't protect I protect certain areas of my personal life
mm-hmm.
but I'm not as worried about it as I maybe was in the beginning, about sharing with people, because
Yeah.
we're all people.
Yeah.
I
Agree.
mean, we're personal trainers, but we're not special. We just have a different set of expertise. We're still human, right?
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm. That human nature of it. It's a good point there. So switching over now to your training style and what you like to do with your clients. An interesting conversation that we had via email was about how you enjoy, which you call your passion, is helping women with more functional training compared to aesthetics based, and also growing in that aspect. So what is that conversation usually like when you're thinking, okay, let's think about what's your life like? What are those items? How can I make that better for you?
mhm. Well, first of all, I just want to add a little, just let me clarify
Mm-hmm.
that there's nothing wrong in my mind with aesthetic goals.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your goal, then go for it. You do you.
100%.
And yeah, absolutely. I'm not judging at all. And it's not to say that I don't or won't train those who want to look a certain way. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally fine. I'm just saying, like, my ideal client and the people that I tend to work with most are those who understand or who sort of learn to embrace the non-aesthetic goals. And often, I mean, to be honest, when that starts to happen, the aesthetic kind of follows.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that when it follows, it may not follow in the way that they thought it would, but they love it, right? Like, um, they may not, I think people set a certain aesthetic expectation,
Mm-hmm.
and what often can end up happening is that, they realize that, wanting to look like somebody else isn't necessarily how it's going to happen. It often just looks like a better version of you, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with the aesthetic goals. Um, so yeah, no shame there. But often I found, you know, people would say things to me when they would approach me, and they'd say, I really need someone to kick my butt, or, really put me through the ringer, or, you know, I want to be sore, and I want to be doing burpees, and they want a trainer to yell at them like any, a seemingly effective technique we may have seen on reality TV shows, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what people sometimes in their mind think that trainers do. And maybe there are some who do that. I'm sure there are.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like to steer the conversation in a bit more of a positive direction and let the women I work with, or who approach me to work with me, know that there's value in the non-aesthetic benefits of working out. And again, like, the aesthetic part kind of often follows.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more important to really nail the basics first. Like, nail your form, get your sleep, get sufficient protein. Those small things are kind of the things that I like to work with in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I like to remind them that fitness and exercise should really improve your quality of life, not take away from it. Your exercise shouldn't be torture. um, there are ways to really embrace and enjoy getting strong. That doesn't mean that my programming is easy, but I don't ever want it to be, that, quote, torture that
Mm-hmm.
people often think it should be. Um, you know, Often people say, I wasn't sore after our last workout. Why wasn't I sore? And they get all discouraged that they're not sore. Well, I like to explain that that's not necessarily, you don't need to chase soreness.
Yep.
Do you understand like, I'm sure you've heard it too,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Why am I not sore?
It's a big difference. And when I will say that, and this is nothing, I've taught group fitness throughout my whole career in the fitness industry. And even though I don't coach or teach, these days, I mean, as recent as, I'll say 2 years ago, I was, and it was the same kind of mindset. Oh, I just really want to leave this session extra sweaty, or I was really sore after that. And in my mind, it's like, wouldn't you rather be able to walk the next day and exercise again? Isn't that
Right?
really the goal? Is that you are consistently working out, not so
Yes.
much working out so hard that you
Yeah.
can't train for another 2-3 days. And so I think it's
And
such a, go
especially,
ahead. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I noticed that a lot of the women who I work with, they already have lives. They've already got, full-time jobs, a family to take care of often. They've got things in their lives that already sort of put them through the ringer on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis. And I don't want their time with me to be an extra stress. I want it to be something that makes them feel better and that
Yeah.
empowers them to take on the challenges of life,
Yeah.
that makes them feel more confident in taking on those challenges. And
Exactly.
I like to really encourage that. Life doesn't always look like a well laid out fitness plan and meal plan.
Mm-hmm.
So when people start to work out with me, well, what if we do like 3 or 4 times a week? And sometimes I'm like, okay, well, we can get to that. Let's start, because they've already told, sometimes that works well for people right off the bat. But if they tell me how busy they are and we can only squeeze in 2 sessions as it is, let's nail those 2 sessions a week first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll move on. And if you find that you need more, then we'll add more. But right now, it sounds like you can handle a good solid 2 sessions a week. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
I don't, like right out the gate, I just want to clarify that they can do a lot in 2 sessions a week. They don't have to run themselves ragged. Let's help this prepare you to handle life and not, run you down more.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that goes into, even though when I'll say fitness professionals go through their education, their entry level education, you learn about progressive overload.
Yep.
And yeah, we sometimes forget about those concepts and how they can apply to even just your programming, in terms of, let's just get 2 days knocked out per week, and then let's add on to that. Let's not just, if the client says something, it's okay to say, let's pump the brakes for a second, and let's
Yeah.
try to just create some consistency in your life, so that we're going to take something that typically you don't like, that's going to be tough, but let's just try to adhere to it and make those positive habits. And I'll say, what was interesting to me was thinking about the differences with some of the men that I've worked with in the past, that oftentimes they've come to me when and same thing, I've worked with men that they just want to look good. Awesome. That sounds great. But men that realize that they need to shift their type of training. They realize that, okay, what I learned in the 60s and 70s about doing tons of bench press and squats,
Right.
that it's not working for me anymore. And I can't even walk anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me shift that mindset and let me learn from somebody. And I've had breakthroughs with those types of guys, and they've typically been retired gentlemen that they just want to golf better, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I dig
Mm-hmm.
it. I dig
Yeah.
your habits, and let's get you swinging that club faster, moving better,
Mm-hmm.
bigger range of motion. And when they start to do things, it starts to click. It starts to
Mm-hmm.
click in their head. Okay, wow, like this is more beneficial for me. I can walk better. I can
Yeah.
move longer. All these things start to add up in their head. They start to say, okay, maybe I don't need to do bench press anymore. Maybe I don't need to do back squats anymore. Not saying those are bad exercise. I do those on
Right.
a weekly basis, but for these populations, figuring these things out, that they can make routines, all these kinds of things, when it starts to click in their head. So it's a great conversation to have with
Mm-hmm.
your clients. And I feel like that also goes with the openness of it. And I think the next question, because this is also another fascinating point to bring up with the times and how they've changed, and with even your population that you work with, but even your work schedule. I think that hearing from fitness professionals how their work life has changed. So how even has, with the kids doing online school at home, how has that changed your workflow and your work schedule?
Depends on which day you ask me. Um, it's always, a new surprise. Um, I'm in a good place right now because there's challenges at every age with the kids, of course,
Hmm.
but now they're 14 and 16. So, um, they're it's not like they're tugging at my leg asking for mommy's attention all the time, but there are some challenges. We do use up a lot of data in our house. I mean, we were having technical issues right before this started because all of us are online. I mean, I'm online all the time. My kids are doing school online right now. That was our choice. And you know so for example, when I'm filming, like if I'm filming a workout to go into my library, then or something like this, for example, I have to say to them, okay, so unless someone is in a life or death situation, like really just think about if you really need to come up and get me right now. Like, and they're pretty good. Like, let's get everything out of the way right now because I'm going upstairs in a few minutes. If you have
Hmm.
any questions, concerns, tell me now. And they know to not really to not get in my way too much when it's time to work, and they know those times. And I'm pretty clear about it. I think I've posted in my Instagram a couple times just some quirky little things like I have a sign that goes on my door that just says, "Hey, mommy's working. Don't bug me." And there was one time when I was filming and just my son was just having a bad day. And he just came into my room and just needed a hug. And I was like, okay, I'll take that interruption. That's fine. I'll refilm this. So things like that are going to happen. But yeah, it's it's always been that I've been working from home. I mean, for a long time now, I've worked from home. So it's not completely unusual for me to have the challenge of having the kids around all the time. It's just the whole filming and being online for everyone to see when it gets a little bit more challenging.
I bet.
Like, for example, like right now, my daughter is 16 and we've all got a crazy sense of humor in this house. And when she laughs, the whole house hears it. So she's having a conversation with a friend and she'll be like, she'll bust out and I can hear it loud and clear in here. I don't think you can hear it. But from time to time, you might hear like a very loud laugh because it's just, it's not the worst thing. It's just something that, I got to block out distractions. That's what yoga instructors do. So.
I dig it.
So does that answer your question? I'm not sure if I went on a tangent there.
No. That's good to hear because I'm sure there are plenty of listeners in that boat that are fit pros trying to figure these things out, trying to organize the kids' schedules to make sure that they're getting their schooling done, all those types of things. And it's the realness of it, of the situation that we're in. So we're going to get to our podcast takeaways, and it's with your journey so far throughout these past months, we'll call it, probably starting back in March. And I know that you had I'm just going to call it a delayed start because you had your surgery and whatnot, and making sure that keep in mind that there was that pause, which was good for the story of this podcast, which is great. The realness of it, but how and where were you finding these resources to help you shift the small shifts? And even and it's great to hear that you're a fan of the podcast. What other resources did you dive into, pull some ideas from for even the community, things like that? What do you usually dip into?
If I may say, I feel like that has been a real silver lining through all of this. This has been a really rough time around the world, but I think, something that has actually been a silver lining for me is the amount of education that I've been able to get over the last few months, because A, I've had a little bit more time, and B, because it's accessible.
Yeah.
I have been able to learn from the best of the best over these last few months, and that has been a huge gift. In the beginning, especially here in Canada, we've, there are some local, I don't know, what's the word, what do we call it? Certification bodies, who certify trainers and stuff, putting out all kinds of free webinars and things like that. So some of that I've partaken in. Podcasts became a regular part of my daily life because I would take walks every single morning. That was my sort of my get into my head and keep calm and everything kind of time every single day, sometimes more than once a day, throughout the summer and spring and the warm months. And so podcasts were a regular thing. There's tons of industry podcasts out there like yours, and I have enjoyed listening to different people's takes on not only the pandemic stuff, but just in regular training.
Yeah.
I have no shortage of books that I was waiting for an opportunity to really dive into, and I did, training books, industry books. I belong to our local chamber, and that has been a great resource too, business-wise and just support-wise. Other businesses from around here who are dealing with the same things I am, or, so it's almost been like a giant support group, during a weird time. So yeah, I've taken part in numerous online trainings and gotten a few new certifications throughout this whole thing, and earned some CEUs. It's it's been quite a time of learning for me, and I've really embraced that.
Yeah. I love the positives, silver lining, we'll say, with it. It's great to hear that you took the time to really invest in yourself, find more resources as they become available with the different organizations, all that kind of stuff. And instead of, sadly, I will say that I've seen individuals out there that have not done that. They haven't seen that, okay, I can, find these resources, because a lot of big organizations have been willing to go online or offer things for free. Mm-hmm. And it's great to hear that you took advantage of those. And your story, it's great to hear the realness of it for listeners. And even myself, just hearing how other fit pros, different parts of the world, even though you're just in Canada, still different part of the world. Mm-hmm. It's great to hear these kinds of things and connect and share these stories. So, Tammy, we're wrapping up the podcast right here. Can you share your social media links? So, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, I keep it pretty simple. Tammy Snow-Johnston Fitness.ca is my website, because we're in Canada, CA. And my Instagram is at Tammy Snow-Johnston Fitness. My Facebook is Tammy Snow-Johnston Fitness. So, I mean, pretty straightforward.
Perfect.
And I'm always on there in some way, shape, or form, sharing and, learning and growing.
I dig it. Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, being our guest today. And
thank you so much for having me.
Yes, great stuff today. Thank you again.
Thank you.